Welcome everybody. Welcome to another weekly Wednesday self-storage networking acquisitions. Today we have the pleasure of having Damon on from Storage Shield. Damon is going to give his presentation today regarding tenant protection and all the features, benefits, everything that comes with that. I got my favorite shirt on today, so if you want one, let me know. I can definitely hook you up, but I wanted to say that because everybody keeps asking me about it. But with this, I'm going to turn it over to Damon. Damon, you have presentation rights. So if you want to share your screen, or first, let's do a little bit of introduction about how you got in self-storage, a little bit about yourself and Storage Shield.
So I've been in self-storage 15 years. Again, my name is Damon Emerson. I am currently the CEO partner with Storage Shield Tenant Protection. A lot of you know, if not, my business partner is John Manus. And I am a partner and CEO in Storage Shield because 14-ish years ago, John and I had become close friends when he was with Uncle Bob's, when they were still called Uncle Bob's. And he had been laid off. He tells the story often, but he had been laid off at the time. And him and I had a conversation, and he was really frustrated because John is not someone who just doesn't work. He's got one of the best work ethics I've ever seen in any of my people I know. And we were talking, and he was frustrated and, was overqualified for everything. And I was transitioning from creating a marketing program for CubeSmart when CubeSmart was still called You Store It. And I created a marketing program that essentially was Sparefoot before Sparefoot. And I was transitioning from that into becoming the sales director for the Northeast and wherever in the country for StoreSmart tenant insurance. And John and I talked, and I ended up getting off the phone going, you know what, my friend does not sound like my friend, and something's wrong, and frustrated. And if he's having that hard of a time, I reached out to every owner I knew in self-storage at that time and just said, hey, you really have to talk to my friend. I think he'd be an amazing asset in your company. And 30, 40 companies in, finally someone in Houston area decided to give John a call, and a 3-hour interview, and John became his chief operating officer, which led to becoming his own owner. So in 2021, when John sold 15 stores, was at the pinnacle, pardon the pun, because that's the name of his company, but the pinnacle of his storage career, he called me and said, I want to pay you back for everything you've done with me, which is funny because I have never been someone that does anything for me. Like, if you have a friend that's struggling, you help them. It's just the only way life should be. But he made me his partner, and it was because he felt that he needed to pay back a debt that I did for him and helping him land on his feet. So it's something any of us, I think, in this room would do for anybody that we know and love. But for me, it strengthened this friendship, and he gave me this opportunity to grow a program. This is the 4th program in self-storage that I've had a hand in growing. And I'm very proud of that because when I started in this industry, I was an ex-QVC employee and wasn't sure where it was going to lead. And I had no college degree and really for about 7 years allowed that to hold me back and keep me from having any success because all I knew was I needed a degree to do something. And self-storage saved my life and really taught me that you have hard work, you have a good work ethic, you get to know people. And my whole storage career began because when I was creating this marketing program for You Store It, I just started reaching out to people to introduce myself. And I hate cold calling to this day, but I just knew that the only way to get to know this industry is get to know the people that lead it. And I spent the first 6 to 9 months just introducing myself, telling them about this program that I was asked to do, that I had no idea about marketing, no idea what I was doing, but I knew that it meant something. And those conversations led people to go, well, I have to meet you because who in their right mind just reaches out with absolutely no idea what they're doing and talk to people? And this has been fun. And those people took me to trade shows and introduced me to their network, and then their network introduced me and so on. And that's why doing events like this are very important. It's why I do so much with Clubhouse. It's why at any national event, any state event, you find me, you tell me what you're looking for and what you need and who you need to meet. And if I don't know that person, I will find someone who does, and we will make sure that we make the connection. I will do this for the rest of my life, because what I've been given and provided, you can't put into words how special it's been to me. So it's my place in this industry now to do the exact same thing that's been done for me. That's who I am in a nutshell. And that's not Peppa Pig, in case anyone's wondering. Not Peppa Pig.
I'm glad you brought it. I definitely can feel you on that one, and as well as everybody else on this call who's kind of like the weekly, this industry is definitely given back to me more than anything else that I could ever imagine. Especially the guy Randall. I talk to him, a couple times, try and talk to him a couple times a week, and meet up with them, and definitely appreciate anybody and everybody that's on this call. So
it's a fun group. With that being said, I'm going to go into, I have a little PowerPoint. Again, I promise I'm going to do what I can to not jump around. I will admit, guys, I jump around a lot. So if that confuses anybody, I apologize now. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to show a quick video, and I'm hopeful the sound works. It's 50-50 when it does. But so who I am Storage Shield Tenant Protection. We are a tenant protection provider. I have always wanted, so take a step back. I was part of developing StoreSmart Tenant Insurance. I was with StoreSmart for 11 years. In 2019, we bought our main competitor, Bader Tenant Insurance Company. So you've probably heard of both insurance programs. They are currently owned by Storable, because the day that we finalized purchasing Bader Insurance, Storable purchased us. And in purchasing us, we became part of the Storable family. So for about almost 2 years, I was a Storable employee-ish, still under the StoreSmart tagline. But during my time in storage, had gone against tenant protection a lot. And tenant protection was easy to sell against for me, because there's a right and wrong to everything in life. And with this and with insurance, there was a right and wrong. And why do we want to do insurance? Why are we doing what we do? Why do we want to make sure that we have insurance? All these things were pivotal and an important piece to what made us successful. So I had always fought against with tenant protection. Tenant protection, as it was created and what started in New York years and years and years and years ago, is all about wholesale type mentality. We are going to pay you a lot of money to work with our protection program. And this was how these programs were sold. And with the understanding of, hey, listen, when claims happen, they're going to be paid. But they were pushed so much about revenue and value and what you're going to make that the substance was never really covered, or it was kind of glazed over a little bit. And what people were finding was, okay, I love the fact that you're going to pay me all this money, and it's, oh my God, I can't believe how much we can make, and blah, 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 blah. And they were never really clear on, well, what do I have to do? And it became very, very known right away that, oh my God, as an owner, I'm responsible for everything. And my managers are responsible for everything. So people signed up for protection, got a large amount of revenue that was going to be paid back to them, but they ended up becoming part of the claim, part of the process, to the point where an owner operator would now be the face of a claim. And my argument, and still is today, is, okay, so as owner operators, we know that it's about protecting our liability. We've either invested a lot of money, we've put a lot of money, we've paid a lot of money, or we are working with a company that's put in a lot of money. I need to make sure that the risk of liability does not fall at our feet. I cannot be responsible when things go bad. I don't want to have to pay money and give up all these things just because someone has lost. So insurance was always the key thing. But with protection, owners were finding out, okay, yeah, I'm being paid a lot, but why do I now have to fill out paperwork for a claim with a tenant? Why am I working with my tenant on these claims? What do you mean I have to make decisions if a claim is paid or denied? I don't want to do that. I'm not an insurance company. And the answer was always, well, hey, listen, just pay it. You're going to take an initial hit, but you're going to send it to us, and then we're going to work with our insurance companies, and we're going to take care of the claim, and you're going to be fine. And 98% of the time, it works exactly as that. The problem is, well, the 2%, but also the owner operator has already taken on the brunt of anything that could be negative, because they are looked at as the face of a claim. So I've always had issues with that. And then it was, well, what happens if, okay, you pay something and you send it to your insurance backer, but they look at it and they deal with their insurance company and they go, well, wait a minute, why did they pay this? I don't know if we would have paid this. We should probably discuss. And what happens if they decide, well, maybe we wouldn't have paid the whole amount? Doesn't happen a lot, if at all now, because it's so out there with claims and how things happen. But it was always something that I never understood. And as an owner operator, why do you make yourself the face of a claim and loss? So on the insurance side, it made it great because insurance is all about transfer of risk. You get signed up for the tenant insurance program. If a claim happens, if you're in a state that's licensed, you have a legally limited license to be able to operate over the facility. The insurance program policy had to be to train you the right way, and you couldn't say certain things, and you had to be careful. What I learned, and I love that, and I love that way of doing it. It all should be always about transfer of risk. To do this correctly, owners should never be in the middle of paying out loss, never should be in the middle of filling out paperwork. You should be in a situation where you can transfer that risk. And I'm going to show you, and what we do is we are a transfer of risk program, but it's because of what I learned. And what I've learned when I left the insurance industry is what made me want to do sessions like this, because where there are so many strengths to tenant insurance, I think some of the strengths also become a weakness. And I am going to be very upfront. Some of this is going to be leaning on protection, not because I think that I am the greatest in this industry and our industry is the greatest thing ever. I think our industry as a whole is great. And I think these programs matter and they're important. But it's also important to understand that these strengths that I thought were strengths on one side became a detriment when you take a step back and look at what they can cause or what their responsibility is. And when that happens, owners just need to be prepared. You need to know what questions that you have to ask. And insurance and protection are pivotal pieces because they're really the only programs that cost very little to get started, but you can make a lot of revenue as long as you are doing things right. And you need to have the idea of protecting your tenants as number one. All right, so bear with me here. We're going to see if this works, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's not going to work. No. Let's try this again. This works half the time. Nope. All right, well, like I said, it was going to be 50-50. It's a news report. I like starting everything off with, why are these important? So it was a news report that was the importance of why this matters. There was this great massive loss and there was a fire and they were interviewing people on this because that's what the media does. They look for stories, right? Well, this was perfect in that they got people that were able to share their loss. Not perfect that it happened. It was heartbreaking, but one woman, basically was in tears and I lost a lot and I can't believe it. Thank God I had insurance and thank God that I had the right coverage and thank God that I did the right thing. And then another gentleman, which is what killed me, was he was moving and he had planned to only be there a couple months, but the move was taking long and he lost everything. He lost his entire house. And he had a chance for insurance. And he goes, and I'm dreading it. My wife is mad at me because I didn't take it. And that really is the importance of why these programs matter. What has happened in our industry, because our industry is more about the wild, wild west when it comes to how things are done. And the programs in this industry have put a negative light on what people should get out of it. People want to go back and they want to hold our companies, all of us, accountable for how things were done 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago, when it's not the same way. The owners just need to understand it. I want my tenants to have coverage. Well, here's what we have to do. And then it's up to us and our programs to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the owner and training and making sure that they understand what they're doing. But what is tenant insurance or protection? So self-storage, it has been proven to reduce facility owners' liability exposure in the event of a tenant loss. It's about transfer of risk management. Claims happen. You have an insurance company, they come in, that risk is going to get transferred directly to the insurance company. The insurance company is going to deal with that one-on-one with the tenant to make sure it gets taken care of in a timely manner. What is protection? The contract between the facility and tenant where there's a contractual liability policy. Protection is two policies in one, essentially. It is a contract between the facility and the tenant and a contract between the facility and the protection company. And there are two types of protection programs, which I will get to. in a little bit. But if people want to understand the importance of why protection matters, CubeSmart, which has traditionally only done tenant insurance for years, recently over the last 18 months has switched all their stores, with the exception of a percentage, all over to protection programs so that they can run. And they've done it because the protection industry has changed, and the company that they work with, that they are the face of, is able to help them with loss and claims. And it's just done a lot better way. So it tells you if you have a REIT doing something, and it's probably not going to be this negative that the industry tries to portray. Tenant insurance pros and cons. For the pros, again, with insurance, it's about lowered risk of liability. They're regulated by the state. So if you're in a state, not every state has a limited license. I'm going to say maybe 38 of them. I'm not 100% on that. I might be off by one or two. They're going to be regulated by the state. And with that being said, you're going to have a limited license. For instance, in Pennsylvania, we are a limited license state. So you have to go through the process of filling out paperwork with the state. You're going to get licensed. Most people look at this. The ones that have concerns are, I don't want the state having my information. I'm here to tell you now, ladies and gentlemen, you're foolish if you think the state doesn't already have your information. You have a business and a company in the state that you're in. So, Phil, if you're doing insurance, don't give the insurance company a hard time. Fill out the paperwork. If you want to do it, then fill it out. If not, then why are you doing an insurance program in the first place? Just follow the rules. They're there for a reason. All right. Insurance is about the transfer of risk in revenue. I mean, if you do revenue correctly, you're going to get a piece of revenue. I will tell you, with the insurance programs, they do some amazing training. You have, I don't necessarily agree with all the training, but the key is their programs work, and the trainings work for their program. Right? I know how I like to train, but you have trainings that are, conference calls and webinars and one-on-one and all these different things. Most of them are virtual. And virtual can be successful, but again, you need to make sure that you're having the right questions answered and you're given the right protection. With tenant protection, it has always been about increased revenue. I will tell you, you will in fact make more revenue with a protection program than an insurance program. I do not care what the insurance industry says. Insurance, for a very long time, was afraid to go over a certain amount of admin back, administrative fee or profit sharing, because they always said and preached that it was wrong to go above a 40 to 45% amount of money back. And now all of a sudden, 10, 11 years later, they want to compete with the protection industry. And now all of a sudden, they're trying to throw out large, possible, dangerous profit sharing numbers that could in fact get owners in trouble eventually. I know the insurance industry doesn't want me saying that, but it's the truth. It used to be that, you'd get in trouble if Department of Insurance understood or noticed that, hey, listen, why are you paying these facilities 65, 70% when insurance was created so that you are not allowed to take advantage of the consumer? We are licensed by the state. Why are you doing this? And then there'd be fines, penalties, whatever. And that was the fear that insurance companies used to throw out to sway people from working with a tenant protection program, because tenant protection is not backed by the Department of Insurance. You don't need a license to do a tenant protection program, but we all work with our insurance backers. So even though a tenant protection is not backed by the Department of Insurance, the tenant protection program is in fact backed by an insurance company that has been around. One company, theirs was created only 3 or 4 years ago, but on average, most of the programs are 50, 70, and 100 years old. So, you got to be careful what you're getting into. With insurance, it is about transfer of risk, but when you're dealing with protection, okay, I'm going to make more revenue, but what are the real keys? Revenue will be there, but what am I looking at? Well, you don't need to get licensed. The claims process is going to be easier with protection because it is quicker. It's a better claims process. You have higher claims coverage. The payouts, the process, it's because protection programs are built to have a higher success rate in claims being taken care of. We are not beholden to regulations and gray areas, which is what the insurance world, whether it's tenant or whatever, healthcare, auto, home insurance, there are these gray areas that you have to be careful of. It's why most of us have to do our insurance program, but we don't necessarily believe when we file a homeowner's claim that everything is going to get taken care of the way that it should have. It's because of that. Well, protection, I know what I have to take care of with my insurance company. They've given me the parameters, but I'm not, weeding through a certificate of insurance to find out, well, should this not be covered? Do I need to make sure that the letter of law says that this is how it should be? And it's a question. I don't think I can cover. That's not what we have to do. What is the root loss of this? What is the root cause? Okay, well, that's a covered loss. Get it taken care of. The one pro that's also a negative that you'll see on both is acknowledge of negligence. To be able to do a protection program, you are acknowledging as an owner negligence. Sounds scary, sounds freakish. I don't want to be responsible and get sued. It's part of what makes the protection not insurance because of that. Well, it's a part of it. But it's up to your protection program to have things set up where that does not become a negative, where you are not put in the middle of a claim. And I'll explain some of that here in a little bit. The negatives, tenant insurance, gray areas in coverage, cumbersome claims process due to those regulations. A great story. Jim Mooney is a great story. Jim Mooney was with an insurance program a while ago, calls me out of the blue, asks, okay, what is burglary? And kind of sat there and went, Jim, that's one of the strangest questions you've ever asked me. I don't get it. You know what burglary is. You were with me with insurance for a long time. What are you getting at? And he goes, I need to know what the definition is. And it's evidence and it's a police report. Why? What happened? Well, I just had a claim denied. Is video, if something's on video, is that considered evidence? And I went, it's the dumbest question ever. What do you mean? Yeah, that's evidence. He goes, it was denied. So I said, okay, I'm missing something. So sure enough, had the certificate sent. I will say this, it's the perfect example of what happens in insurance world. It said that you needed a cut lock. It actually said nothing about there being video evidence. So they were right to deny it because there was no cut lock. They had on video a guy walking up, cutting locks, going in and out of a unit, taking stuff, which seems like it's common sense, cut and dry. But based off the certificate, if there's no cut lock, the insurance company has every legal right to turn that down. Now, it doesn't happen a lot, and I'm not saying all the programs do that, but that is a perfect example of why it can be frustrating and why I now understand why people get frustrated with insurance. And that is the concern. Now, I will say this, 2.5 weeks later, I kind of walked Jim through, Jim, you're going to have to fight this, and here's what you're going to have to do. And 2.5 weeks later, he got a hey buddy call. Hey buddy, hey, good news. You're such a valued client. We decided to do this. Now I'm paraphrasing the whole process, but that is what you have to be careful of on the cons. The good news is most of these programs now on the insurance side, their claims processes are pretty cut and dry. It's more a matter of just getting claims taken care of in a timely manner, but you do have to deal with some frustration. All right. The legal issue possibilities that everybody wants to say you have with protection, because even in the wholesale world where you're the face of a claim, you get them on insurance as well. I don't care what people say. You can still have concerns and issues. The cons on tenant protection, again, it's that acknowledgement of negligence. If that's going to freak you out, it's going to freak you out. You have to ask questions on what the company does in these situations and what it does for you. You could be placed in the middle of a claim. You get no protections from the state as far as Department of Insurance and licensing. More work for the owner or manager. There could be possible PR frustrations. You could have legal issue possibilities. Again, you could with anything. Our leases are amazing that we have in this industry, and the lawyers do a great job of protecting them. But just like in insurance, your lease is only as good until the attorney that can find a way to turn it on you gets hold of it. So what you need to find out is, for me, for instance, I have safeties that are built into every process when I partner with a company, and I have documentation and things that are done so that what you have supports your lease, so that in the court of law, there are certain things that can arise to make sure that your risk is lowered. And then how claims are submitted. This is going to go in line with when I get into what are your main differences. So I just gave you the two main negatives to what protection and insurance are, as well as the positives. What I have learned, and why someone who fought against protection for almost 11 years and now is owning his own protection program and the face of it, is I learned that the negatives on protection don't have to be the negatives on protection. You can create, and there is a couple programs, and I will say this is going to be a pro for Damon and Storage Shield, but I'm one of a handful of companies that actually are doing these type of programs now. There is a change in tenant protection, and the change is it's about risk aversion. And what you can have with tenant protection is you can have a program that transfers the risk. So this idea that it's a wholesale program becomes moot, because what you have being done is this acknowledged negligence is now being transferred through the agreement you have with the protection program. Like in our case, you have it transferred where that acknowledged negligence, the majority of that negligence, there will always be a little bit, just like there will always be a little bit with insurance, is transferred back to the protection program. And then we are the ones that are working with your tenants. And you want that. You want someone who understands the insurance industry from a protection standpoint that can sit there and work with your tenants and understand claims and make sure that you are not part of the process. Now, what am I saying there? What I'm saying is this negative or con that I told you about protection, where you are part of it, you are working in the middle of a claim, you're the face of it, you're working on paperwork, becomes moot. And you're not doing that now. So in reality, there's two types. There are two types. I can't do two with my finger. There are two types of protection programs that you can look at. You have to ask the right question. So what are the main differences? Transfer of risk, licensed and backed by the state, going to be tenant insurance. High revenue split, no license, less cumbersome, more control with tenant protection. Why have operators offered protection over tenant insurance? Revenue has always been the key reason why in the past. The tenant protection process has evolved, and it is about providing more of a transfer of risk. This is what I think worries and concerns the tenant insurance industry, because they still don't necessarily understand or know how protection works, because they only focus on the insurance, which is what they should do. And if you want to do insurance, I'll tell you till I'm blue in the face that you won't be in the middle of a claim, that we can transfer the risk back. But there are people who just want to have that comfort of, listen, I like knowing that the state of Pennsylvania can provide me a limited liability insurance policy, and then I can actually offer it. And if something were to happen, I can tell someone, no, I have got this certificate here, and that is telling me that I am actually protected and I'm not doing anything illegal. Whereas with tenant protection, it's this is a protection program. It's not insurance. I don't have to abide by those rules, and my company is backed by an insurance backer. And that's training. That's what training is part of making sure that you are taken care of. Insurance, the insurance industry has and will and still does today focus on the transfer of risk, not putting yourself in the middle of a claim. And it is about fear. So if you talk to an insurance program, they're going to be very respectful. And the respect is going to be, well, listen, you have a lot of programs. And, hey, tenant protection is going to do this. They've got some programs out there that are working fine. But really, do you want to put yourself in the middle of a claim because that's what you're going to do? Or, having that license is really going to make sure that you're taken care of, and you've invested a lot of money into your program. And it becomes, this is what they have to do. And which is the new one this last few months. Listen, there's a lot of states that are actually shutting protection down, and there are a lot of states that are in the process all over the country, and there's multiple states that are just not allowing you to offer protection plans. Right now, there's one. Not happy with it, not proud of it. The state of New Mexico has had a cease and desist on protection programs, and the reason is, simply put, there was a company that did not train or make sure that the owners, their clients, were doing the right thing at the facility level and making sure that their tenants were being enrolled and understanding what protection is. That's how these programs get in trouble. They were not trained, I think, in my opinion, correctly. Nothing against the protection program. The protection program isn't required to do the training, and they set the owner up for success. But what happened is you have managers that just kind of say whatever they need to, and they were required by their owner operators that they had to have a high percentage of tenants enrolled, and they just said the wrong things. And that got back to the Department of Insurance. That's typically how these happen. State of Michigan had a 2.5-year shutdown because Bader Insurance, not when they were owned by us, but Bader Insurance at the time had an amazing program for their client. And they, in my opinion, and listen, I was part of this when we bought them, so I got to see things, but At that time, Bader just didn't make sure and ensure that their owners were training their managers the right way. But that is an insurance program as much as it is an ownership. But you had a 2-year shutdown with an insurance program. Now, the good news is Bader stepped up, took care of everything, and they did the right thing. And they worked with the incredible board of directors with Michigan, and they got it passed where they have an exemption and they're allowed to offer insurance. But it wouldn't have happened if the insurance company didn't step up. So there's always positives with every negative, but this is what you have to be careful of. If someone tells you in tenant protection, you got to be careful. It's not allowed in all these states. I'm telling you now, it's not allowed currently in New Mexico. The next year to 18 months, there'll be an appeal, and I'm sure it'll be opened back up. But these are things you got to be aware of. Always make sure you're asking questions. What is something to remember about a tenant protection plan? That you're not offering insurance. The key thing is this isn't insurance. You're being offered a program that is backed by an insurance company, but this is not insurance. It's more like, I guess, a warranty, but I mean, warranties don't typically pay. If you go to buy a TV, a warranty is going to be there that covers nothing and gives you the exact same amount of coverage that you'd have on the factory warranty. So, but it's the idea of how the loss is covered. With protection, it's a million times better, and we actually cover loss. I mean, it's a higher, much higher percentage of coverage than it is in the tenant insurance world. Now, with insurance, your training, I believe I do great training. I did horrendous training when I was in insurance because I was not able to separate selling and training. So we had an amazing training department, and there's still amazing trainers now in insurance. I believe over this time I have become a much better training because it's just about knowledge, and I've learned how to do that. But typically with insurance, your training was always a little bit better because if you have a wholesale program with protection, and what I mean with wholesale is a protection program is going to give you a 25-minute training, and it's just here's what you're going to do, and here's how to enroll it through your software at the facility level. That's all that they require because you're going to handle everything else. Well, if you do a risk-averse tenant protection program, you're transferring that risk. So if I'm telling you from my end or a couple other companies that are telling you, hey, listen, we're going to train you, but here's what's going to happen. You are not allowed to touch this claim. If a claim happens, you have to transfer that back to us. And in our case, well, there's a couple companies. The process has been, we will work with your tenant one-on-one. So we'll be the one to make sure, and then you guys are not part of it. It's very similar. It's not insurance, but it's very similar to what happens in tenant insurance. So are all tenant protection programs the same? No. You have wholesale, and then you have, I'm calling it a service process. And it's just, you're going to have a little bit less payout on a service program, but you're going to have more payout than you would on tenant insurance. But it's about the transfer of risk. Again, if you're not doing this the right way, if you're not making sure your tenants have coverage, if you're not making sure that your managers are as important as the tenant, because your manager, who is the one offering and doing all this, they need to be protected as well. And I have been such a big proponent, and managers need training, but they need to know that they can reach out to their company. Like everybody knows they can call me at any time if they have questions, right? Because you have to have this to do it the right way. And then you have hybrid programs. Hybrid really is a wholesale type program. Well, I can't really say that. I guess the service and hybrid are kind of 1A and 1B. You also have a captive type protection program, which is, hey, we're going to pay you pay us pennies on the dollar, but you're going to have a very large deductible. And that comes into play if your deductible ever hits this high amount per every claim, which typically doesn't happen. So what happens is you're collecting a lot of revenue. You are paying everything out of pocket. You are making decisions on claims. And then all of a sudden, you're in the middle of it. So if you just want revenue and you don't care about anything else, it's a great program. But again, if you can do insurance or if you can do a risk-averse protection program, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. It protects what you've invested in your facilities as a whole. Are all insurance programs the same? They're really all similar. They all create captive programs. They all have over-the-counter online processes. It comes down to how they're constructed, the profit sharing, training, support, communication, connectivity. I will tell you, profit sharing is going to be key. And I think I'm doing okay on time. I'll probably be another 7 minutes or so. Here's what you need to be careful of. And I'm going to get in trouble on this with somebody. Somebody's not going to be happy. And for those of you that aren't happy in the insurance world, I don't care. I live this. if anybody in this industry can say anything about the insurance industry and how it can work with protection as well, it is going to be me, because I am the only one in the industry who has done both and done it, in my mind, the right way. But with insurance, you have companies out there that are doing things on social media and LinkedIn and Facebook and all these things that are saying how much we're going to pay and we're going to do this and we're the highest paying company out there. And because we're the highest paid, you're going to get the best. And they've made it like that. It's going to get the industry in trouble. Why? Because you have people who are just constantly looking for, I'm in the insurance industry, but I don't handle tenant insurance. But why couldn't we create a program with our State Farm policy or my USAA or my, Progressive? The fact of the matter is you can't. Tenant insurance is so specialized that if these insurance companies could have created it, it would have been done 10, 15 years ago. The state of Pennsylvania took a year and a half or longer to get our tenant insurance limited license law passed because the insurance industry kept fighting us, because they would go and they'd speak in front of the House and they would say, well, there's what we believe. And they were incorrect on part of what they believe, but they just thought this was a moneymaker. Well, no, it's insurance. With protection, I have an insurance backing company that's A-rated, and I know that the decisions that we're making, my insurance backer agrees with because of how we built this program. So it's a misguided understanding of how these things should be covered and taken care of. Insurance, it has become about fear and I'm just going to pay you more than the next guy. And it shouldn't be that way. The tenant insurance, not tenant insurance. Insurance was created, as I said, is a way to protect the consumer. So if you have regulations that are being passed, the reason insurance companies get in trouble is when all of a sudden it's looked at that they're making more than they legally should be making. The problem is, I don't know what the limit is. Nobody does. So if you have companies that have always preached that, we're going to pay this low amount because our service and training is better, and all of a sudden they're offering 15 to 20% more, well, you got to question why they're doing that and what happened that all of a sudden they don't talk about it. Like, these are the things people need to be aware of. It's not just about how much we're going to pay you. You need substance at the end of the day. And if you're not getting it, you need to question. Also, listen, I warned you guys, I jump around. I will get to certain things, but anybody here who is with an insurance company, if your insurance company comes to you and they say, hey, we're going to pay you more money, we're going to do this, we're going to do a letter program to send out to your tenants, but we're going to pay you more if you do it. The only thing is you have to sign a 2 or 3 or 4 year contract. Tell them to pound sand, because the only thing that you are doing, and I've had to deal with it now with friends in the industry who have been stuck in long-term contracts. There should never be longer than a 1-year contract, whether it's protection or insurance, because what you've done is the day that company decides to stop giving you service, starts maybe having questionable claims process, starts not doing what they should and what they promised you, and it's all about promises, you are stuck. And if you try to get out, there's nothing that you can do to get out of it legally. You can spend thousands trying to fight them, but if they're a company that has a lot of money backing them, what they've done is they've given you the opportunity to pay them a ton of money to work out the end of your agreement. So if you're a year in and you want to get out and you have 2 years left, you are going to pay what is perceived value of the amount of money that you're going to bring in over the next 2 years. And that's what you have to pay just to get. I've seen people have to pay $150,000, $200,000 just to get out of an agreement. You have to be careful with what you are doing. So questions to ask: what is my reason? Am I doing this simply to make money? What is my current situation and what would happen? What is my comfort level if a situation happens affecting my tenants? What is the difficulty level? What would the claims process be? And what does a maximized program look like? Also, I guess you can ask in here is, do I allow my managers to run my business? Most of us do, because we don't have a business. If you use managers, and even if you're automated, you have someone who overlooks the automated process online. You're still going to have someone that maybe has to go clean the units. There is a live body that has to do something. If it's you as an owner, I commend you. If you have someone and they happen to do enrollment, they need to understand they're not responsible for making your business decisions. They're not responsible for making the decisions for their tenants. Their responsibility is, my owner came to me and said that we're offering an insurance program to lower our risk of liability. They came to me and said, we're offering a tenant protection program to lower our risk of liability. My job is to make sure that I offer it the way that I'm trained and to make sure that my tenants have coverage. I love that you have a manager that's been with you 15, 20 years and you trust them with everything. Until they become an owner in your business, their job is to do what you need them to do. And if you have an insurance or protection program, their job is to enroll tenants correctly. And if that means they have to do something uncomfortable and they don't know if they believe it, it's not their choice. Their choice is to do what's better for the facility. And if you have 70% of your tenants that are enrolled and covered, and when a loss happens that affects 15 to 20 units, well, guess what? There's a good chance that of 15 to 20 units, you probably have 15 of those people that are going to have coverage. And that is what's going to help you. What is service? So there's a new thing is automation. So automation, there's companies that are now preaching, I have an automated service. We created our process. Everything is going to be automated. It's right from working through your dashboard to we'll automate enrollment. And if your tenants don't enroll, they don't provide proof in 30 days, we'll automatically enroll them. But then we'll also automatically audit every month. And anybody who doesn't have it, they're going to be enrolled. Well, okay, what happens if someone gets sick and you're doing that and you don't know when tenants are being enrolled? Like, you should at least understand when this is going to happen and know every step of the way. And there should always be a hands-on approach, or you should have an understanding. You don't just wash your hands of these types of programs. Automation is amazing. And online, I mean, I watched when the pandemic hit, I was in my last year with Storable, with Store Smart Insurance. There was probably a 70% increase in online. And we watched these concerns we had with how people were going to be enrolling in insurance online or, over the phone. And we watched the increase just be immense. Why? Because when your hands are tied and you have to do something, you have to do something. And all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to have to trust you. And guess what? We were proven right. And people were like, oh my God, I should have done this years ago. But they weren't ready then. It's the same thing with automation. Automation is amazing, but I will tell you this, a claim should not be fully automated. A claim is not, hey, you're going to have everything run through your software, and then that software is going to work with your dashboard. And all your tenants have to do is we're going to direct them to the dashboard, and they're going to go on and they're going to fill out a claim, and it's going to go in through the different sources. And we're going to automate it. And then your customer never has to call you. They never have to call in. They don't have to deal with anybody. We're just going to have the whole approach automated. Well, no, that's not acceptable. You need a license, or you need someone who handles claims and knows what they're doing to be able to work with a tenant one-on-one. That same person is going to be telling the tenant, we're going to work this, we're going to have this taken care of in a timely manner. Owner, operator, manager, they have nothing to do with it. We are going to take care of this one-on-one between our parties. You need to make sure that there's a customer service focus. Automatically send out letters. Automatically is not, hey, we're going to automatically send them out. We already have it in the system. It's going to go out on this date. Automated is, here's the letter. You need to look at it. You need to make sure you're comfortable with it, and you need to make any changes that you have to. When that's done, then you can set up, but you're working with your company, your protection or tenant insurance program, to set up when the letters are going to go out, and your managers know exactly when they go out and when they should come in. This, yes, is automated, but there's a discussion to it. Do not let a company just throw things at you and say, we'll run with it because this is what we do. It is what they do, and you need to trust them, but you need to trust them because they're going to show you why to trust them. 5 takeaways. I won't get into selling points. 5 takeaways. What is the process? Balance of ease from setup to training. Is it simple? Will it provide forms? Will the provider provide forms for transition, conversion, communication? Any company you deal with, you need them to show you the forms that they're going to put in your software, because all of us have created forms that automatically are put into your software. So it's easy for you to get hold of it, but it's also easy for us. Like if we say we'll have letters emailed out to your tenants, it can all be done straight through your software, and we can have it emailed. You need to know where they are located, how to get hold of them, and what they say. The value, is risk being reduced while revenue and value is being increased? Opportunity, does it exist for loss? If so, are you in the best position for your tenants' needs? And trust, who are you working with? What is the reputation of the company, the contacts, and the people that they have? Selling points, I've kind of gone over. This is it, I guess some of the big ones are, is it replacement or actual cash value? I've learned a lot about replacement costs, and I believe in replacement costs, whereas I used to believe in actual cash value. But people's belongings, there's a value to what they have. It's not our job, because it never looks good when an insurance company says, well, this is what your belongings should be valued at based off their age. Well, no, because if I bought something, this isn't a car. This isn't a car that the minute I drive it off the lot, I lose 25% of my value. These are my personal belongings, and I need to be made whole. Does it cover document recreation, fire, smoke? How are things looked at? How is the water? Water loss is a biggie. Insurance concerns is, all right, what if it's a torrential downpour and there's a roof leak? Well, okay, then it's a roof leak. Well, what if water finds its way down the roof to the front of a door and under the door? Well, that's a roof leak. Well, no, that's now rising water. And if your certificate says you don't cover flood, what have you allowed there to be happen? Well, if it's insurance regulations, I'm hopeful this doesn't happen, but I have heard it happen in the past. Okay, well, that can be considered a flood and it's a turn down. Again, it's what is the root cause? You find with protection, that is one of my biggest positives, I believe. If you're in a transfer of risk protection program, risk averse, how is this being done? And it's how is a broken pipe listed? Is it HVAC? Because that's a gray area. HVAC is, well, yeah, it's coverage and sprinkler heads. Well, but it could also be an HVAC company's fault. It could be that the owner did something, or they caused the loss, or is it just simply a broken pipe, where a broken pipe covers all that, plus cracks and bends and seams and all these different things. So there's stuff that people don't realize that you just have to be careful of. Favorite quote: there are no atheists in a foxhole, and there are no self-insured people after a fire. My close friend Jeff Greenberger said this years ago at Arizona Self-Storage Association, and it really is a perfect example of what I deal in my entire life in. Because there are no self-insured people after fires, and you got to be careful. Everyone who sits here and wants to say, I have my own homeowners, renters insurance. Everyone here needs to know it's a small percentage of policies that has water damage in their off-residence coverage. Most people don't realize that. So if you assume and you let someone leave, assuming that they have the right coverage and it's water damage, well, what are they going to do when they find out that they either A, have a large deductible, or B, it's water loss and they don't have coverage? Well, whose fault is it then? So if you've allowed them to leave and provide the incorrect, inaccurate type of proof, you're putting yourself right back at square one. It's why these programs are successful, and it's why training is everything. Not everybody offers great training. You have to do your research. This is my information. I probably covered some of this quick. I apologize, and I still took too much time. But I am always available, guys. I'll leave this up. Well, I'll give it to you. Adam has it. It's here now. We'll leave it up for another second. We have a little bit of different questions. Adam, I'm very sorry. All right, Anthony, excuse me. Why do I keep calling you Adam? I've called you Adam like five. You know what it is?
Because what was it last week? It was really funny last week, and I called Josh, and Josh out on it for some reason. When he posted the last week for Gap Focus, on the bottom it said Adam Krupa, and he was joking offside. He's like, I was so focused on getting your last name spelled right, I completely blanked on your first name. It's not
that is why.
Don't worry about it at all. Don't worry about it all. Awesome information. Damon, kind of from like a perspective, if we reach out to you, we do decide to go ahead, and get started with Storage Shield. What does that process kind of look like as far as enrollment, and all that goes?
Well, from my standpoint, it's kind of everything I have here is similar to what I did with insurance for such a long time. There needed to be an ease, and in doing this, I believe everything has to be on our shoulders. And what I mean by that is there's an agreement. We have an underwriting form. I'll either work over the phone on an underwriting. The good thing about our underwriting is 8 to 10 questions at most. But we get that filled out. We have the agreement. And then from there, we have different options. If you have insured or protected tenants, I'm able to convert those for you. Once the agreement is signed, the obligation or requirement that I have for my new partners and the owners that are partnering with us is, I need you to give me time for training. I need you to give us time to do the ACH and API setup. And what does that mean? The training is 35 to 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or however long it takes. Like, I had an hour and a half meeting because I had 3 managers and they just had questions. I love that because I know that when I get off the phone, they're going to be not only excited and looking forward to it, their questions are answered. But the process is simple. You sign the agreement. We start the process. I submit all the, if you're SiteLink or storage, I submit all the credentials that we need to get set up. We are set up there. We set up a training. The training, once the training is done, you're allowed to start offering over the counter. If there are no insured or protected and you want to, hey, Damon, I would love to introduce this to my current. We have a letter that I've had immense success with. I've had it fine-tuned with both Jeff Greenberger and Scott Zucker. We send to current tenants. They need 30 days notice and notifying them that we now require proof of insurance on file, or we can enroll you in our protection program. But there's steps to why it works. And it's a 30-day process. You're going to get 75% of your tenants enrolled. And until you see it in action, you're gonna question it and you're gonna think, is it right? At that point, I just say, get on the phone with me so I can show you and share. But it is amazing. And you can talk to the owners. I've had a couple owners recently, which I love and I appreciate, and come to me and say, hey, when are you going to be taking testimonials? I can't wait to share this because this is better than anything I had. And that is how you know it's a success, right? It's not just we've grown, it's what do your clients think? And a comment like that is out of the blue, but it's a very simple process. It's just a matter of a phone conversation. I'd ask you give me a little bit of time to go over kind of what we do and why. I will tell you, a program like ours, we are risk averse. I have worked this program to be very similar to what I did with tenant insurance for 11 years. I preach that we're not insurance, but there's a right way to do this. And it's just, I mean, I've had this success doing it. So for me, it was an easy transition.
Awesome. Does the software have to have that open API in order for you guys to be able to offer the tenant protection, or is there a workaround?
We are, so there's a couple software programs. Software is an interesting one as well. I have access. I've recently partnered with Storable. We were questioning if it was going to have, I'm an ex-employee of Storable, so I had the largest book of business with my old insurance program. So we just had to make sure things were right. And they were done right, and Storable really stepped up and were honorable to deal with, which I appreciate. So we're integrated with them. Sentinel, I am the preferred provider for Sentinel software. Anybody looking at new software, Sentinel is recreating their software, and they have created something that is amazing and is going to change how people look at software. Hummingbird, they have given me access that I can use their software. I think Hummingbird finally has got a product. They fine-tuned what they've done. They've got a great software to look at. Self-Storage Manager, I work with them. They just had a launch of their new update with their software. They do a great job. So yeah, Web Self-Storage, I will say I appreciate that company because I was a competitor and a quote-unquote enemy for the longest time. They were one of the first conversations I had at a trade show, and they said, if you want to work, your clients want to work with us, you let us know, and here's how you can do it. And they stepped right up. And I appreciate these software programs not trying to say, you know, hey, listen, our stance is you're going to only want to work with our companies, and you're only going to want to do it because we're the best and this is it, and we're going to make it hard. Those days are going away. I can work with almost anybody. The companies that are probably going to be questionable, if anybody is using Storage Commander, Sirisoft, DoorSwap, I haven't been getting definite confirmation on this, but one of the software programs that are under their ownership did tell me they are creating their own insurance company. And at some point, any of my clients, if they were using their software, we would be removed from the software and they would be put over to their insurance backer. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I don't agree with it because everybody's been mad at Storable for trying to do that. And Storable really has, yeah, Storable has tried to make people understand that their software is you know, connected to their web and their market and their insurance, because it is. Like, we created for SiteLink, and only for SiteLink clients at the time. I don't know if it's still this way, but for the insurance, there were two key pieces to how the software was going to work with the insurance. that you only got if you were with Beta or Store Smart. So that's their right. It's their company, right? But they have now allowed owners or vendors like myself to work with their client base. So you still got to give people the right to make their own choices.
Mhm.
So I work with almost everybody, and I'm fortunate, and I appreciate the software companies for allowing that.
Cool. I want to open up. Does anybody have any questions for Damon here? If you do, just go ahead and unmute yourself, raise your hand. James? I don't know if you would, I just didn't see, I'm not trying to call you, but I didn't see if you unmuted. Ryan, go ahead.
Damon, thanks for a great presentation. I'm looking for my first facility, so I still wasn't as clear on the difference between insurance and protection. This was great. So the light bulb went off for this. So this is a great presentation. A couple notes I had from a past video I watched are wrongful disposition insurance and then environmental cleanup. Could you just expand on that? And maybe that's too in the weeds, or?
No, it's not that it's too in the weeds. Those are insurance policies that are going to be done through your property insurance. So the nice thing about protection or tenant protection is we are so specialized, and they're specialized in one lane, right? It is your goods are going to come in. If there's a loss, there's a whole number of different types of loss that are covered or not covered. And then, drastic, acts of Mother Nature, those types of things. But they're centered in one lane. These are the losses that are covered. Those areas are going to be something that's going to be covered through your property insurance. And in some cases, you might have to work with your state, because it could be a governmental, do you have land that can't even be touched? And I had a guy up upstate Pennsylvania that just went through that. He had 2 facilities. He was given the option to buy this land. And as he was doing it towards the end, the whole thing went away, because he found, when I say last second, everything was getting ready to close. And he found out that 1.5 acres of the land, the state was going to shut down and not allow him to do anything. Blew up his entire plan. So those are how you're going to want to look up those. And I would talk to and if you need a connection with a property insurance company, guys, I know a lot of the vendors, a lot of the companies. So if you have questions, even if it's, I want to do an insurance program, I can tell you the right insurance programs to work with. I know I do protection and this is my company, but whether it's this or property insurance or any of the other vendors, I am here to answer, or I can introduce you to whomever. If you need someone on property, let me know. I've got a couple amazing companies that you can work with.
Great. Thanks, Damon. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Great question. Thanks.
Who else has a question? Do not be afraid.
I see you. Alrighty.
I have a quick question. What are the top 3 claims that most storage facilities have to deal with?
First and second most, and it's going to go back and forth. They're going to be burglary and water, and then rodent. Rodent is going to be your third. Now, it's going to be based off of market. I have, market more in the middle area of the Southeast that rodent is a little bit more prevalent. But typically it's water. So I've handled a lot on claims. I've done a lot with claims, and not that I should have. I was a salesperson, but I was, hey, Damon's the good guy. Everybody, who doesn't like Damon, right? So I would be the guy that would have to have discussions with owners on why claims were not being approved or why they had to be denied. And it's frustrating because there are ones where the water loss, the roof leak, where it finds its way to the front and goes under a door, and you're like, that's not flood. Well, flood in the certificate says it's rising water, and that's rising water. And you're having to have a conversation with an owner going, I don't agree with this, but this is what your certificate says. So when I came over to do this, and I did restructure how our policy works, and I actually switched my insurance backer. I love the company I was with, loved them, but I found a company that was willing to give me control of how claims are started and making decisions and the process. Why? Because for 11 years, I've not only sold, I've seen how claims work, and I've seen the frustrating areas, and I wanted to take frustration out of it. So like when I made the broken pipe comment, So I've seen HVAC and how those policies are, and is it a sprinkler head, and did this happen? And well, that HVAC company, you're going to have to subrogate against them because it looks like it doesn't matter. What was the loss? So I've talked about broken pipe because what is a broken pipe? Well, under a broken pipe is everything: HVAC, burst sprinkler head, a bad thread, a bent pipe, a cracked pipe, all these different things encompassed under a broken pipe. So from a protection standpoint, knowing that these claims have to be covered at a higher percentage because they're not insurance, well, okay, then we're going to make it more of an ethical process, and we're going to make the loss easier to commit to. So we don't have any caveats. I asked for a disc lock. We have a $0 deductible. I don't care what lock you have, but in a disc lock, if someone's willing to cut a disc lock, guess what? It tells, if it's theft, it tells the police, and it tells us that they knew what they were going for, which tells you the kind of loss it is. Well, that makes that more easy, cut and dry when it happens. So that's an easier coverage, right? Well, if it's video, I don't care if we say lock or this, or you need evidence. Evidence is someone walking in and out of a unit after they cut a hole in it or cut a lot, like all these things. It has to be a common sense approach. That's why for our program, it's 1 to 3 weeks start to finish for approval, deny. And if it's a denial, we have a long conversation with the tenant to explain it. And then it's a 1 to 2 week process to have a check cut. Why is it 1 to 2 weeks? Reality of it is we have it cut in 5 days, but 1 to 2 weeks allows us time if the mail is going slow. But this process just allows us to make sure that things are being done better. Another cool thing that I love that we're creating. So there's a company that has really changed protection in our industry. They're a tech company that created a protection program. They are the company that made change, so they're not well liked at times. But I'm making friends with them because that's just what I do. And I think what they've done is amazing. And it allowed me the understanding of what people wanted. So when I say, you're doing things automated and tech, it got me to do something that I wanted to do with insurance that we just weren't allowed to do. So with claims are financial. It's between the insurance company and a tenant. It's a financial transaction. So with insurance, you can't know when these things happen because you can't be involved. So what happens if there is loss? You can't really be told, hey, you just had this happen, you might want to check, because you can't know, and then you're going to get blindsided when a tenant's pissed at you and wanting to get things fixed. Well, from a claim standpoint on protection, I not only can share what's going on with my tenant, I don't give numbers and values because it really is none of their business. But what I can say is, hey, listen, you have a history of like 3 or 4 losses at this one particular building. I just want to bring it to your attention in case you want to be responsive. Or let's say it's a cut and dry, listen, this claim can't be covered. I can talk to them, and if I hear that they're ticked about something, I can notify the owner and say, hey, listen, in our conversation, whether it's paid or denied. I had a guy, we were going to pay the claim, and he still made a comment about giving a bad review because in his world, this never should have happened, right? So I was able to talk to the owner and say, listen, I want to make sure you understand this. So what we've done is, it'll be ready by the end of summer. We're creating a claims portal where an owner operator will actually have link and access to see claims that have happened, if they're approved, denied, if they're still in the process, who the tenants were, how this worked, and just to be able to know what's going on at their facility level. And I'm checked through legal to make sure certain things can be done. And I am very legal oriented. So what we've done, I've taken an insurance mindset to how we do things, but stuff like that is a customer service. Owners should know. And then we also are creating a reporting module so that you can follow everything that's happened from a protection standpoint with every one of your facilities from the beginning you started to up the current time frame. So you can not only know the revenue you've brought in, you can know what stores are doing better than others and how they're working and have I had any drop off. Just a better support module so that this becomes what it should be, and that is a partnership. Revenue is great. If you follow what I say and you do what I instruct, the revenue will be there. But you know what else will be there? Your tenants will be covered. Your managers are not going to be put into a horrible situation. You'll have amazing profit, and not just, hey, I'm bringing in $2,000-3,000 a month. It's, what is this going to add to my property value at a 7% cap? That's what this matters. I'm going to build another store. I want to add units. Oh, you know what? I've got this much revenue added on into what I've done on a $12 policy. Like a little $12 policy can add up to all this. So the long answer to your question. Sorry, Hal.
No, that was all very good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Other-
I've been on the end of insurance before on having it denied due to rodent issues, and this was inside of a climate controlled building. I mean, Class A climate control building back, a few years ago, but that was not a fun one because that actually spread throughout almost the entire first floor of the building, and then calling those tenants and being like, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. And I'm
Yeah, it's
talking,
maddening.
yeah, and I'm talking artwork that, valuable artwork and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's frustrating. It is.
Mhm.
It's not an easy conversation. I have had some rough ones. I had
yeah,
an owner who had a HVAC issue, and our company didn't handle it right at the time. I'm not happy about that. This was like 5 years ago, and tried to make it that this owner told his managers that we'll just tell everybody they have to have insurance, and they'll cover everything. And it's not what happened, but we decided to take a stand against this guy, and the HVAC did make mistakes, but there was actual loss that should have been covered. But we decided as an insurance company to take an incorrect stance. And I don't agree with those things. That's why it's part of the reason why I'm doing this now, knowing you can have control from a protection standpoint. Wholesale programs are great. They exist. And if you like the idea of revenue and you want to be aggressive and, hey, I'd like to get paid 85%. Okay, that's awesome. But understand you're going to do more work. I don't care what they tell you. You are going to do more work, and you will be the face of that loss. Why not get paid a little bit less, make more than you would otherwise, have a company that's going to take that entire process off your shoulders and make sure that all you're doing is offering over the counter, online, over the phone, making sure that your tenants and your business is as protected as you can be. You're maximizing the process. It seems to me to be a no-brainer.
Damon, I love your passion. Obviously a lot of knowledge and stuff there, and appreciate you very much for coming on today, spending the hour with us. I will definitely take and put that last slide and stuff like that, but I'll definitely take and grab his information, Damon's information, put it in the live, in the comments in the live here. Other than that, if anybody else does have any questions, please do reach out to him. I know he's, like you said, very knowledgeable guy, and if he doesn't know something, he knows just somebody who does. So one last check here. So yeah, thanks, Damon. Damon just put his information in the chat. Everybody, again, another successful weekly Wednesday self-storage networking. Next week, it's going to be hopefully we get Randall and I on here. You guys are all welcome to come on back. I expect we're just going to be doing a general Q&A next week, helping anybody out with any questions, anybody new, anybody experienced, owner, operators. Come on back. We'll do like I said, general Q&A, help anybody out, and go from there. Damon,
Guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great group.
thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Everybody
Damon.
have a good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being had, Damon.
See
Thanks.
you guys. Bye.
Later, guys.